Hello guys, today we'll be discussing about Delhi Sultanate. So in this chapter, we will be looking at the political history of Delhi Sultanate, then the slave dynasty, Aibak, Iltutmish, Razia, Balban, the Khaljis, Alauddin Khalji's achievements, the Tughlaqs, Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his experiments, Firoz Shah Tughlaq and his administration, Sayyids and Lodis. Okay, in the previous video, we have seen that Muslim invasions have come to India, and the Gori invaded India, and after that, he left Qutbuddin Aibak to govern the provinces of India under him. So, Muslim invasions in India had ultimately resulted in the establishment of Delhi Sultanates. Okay, there were five different dynasties: the slave dynasty, the Khalji, Tughlaq, Sayyids, and Lodis. Okay, but they not only ruled North India, but also they penetrated the Deccan and South India. Okay, and when we look at each in detail, first is slave dynasty. Slave dynasty is also called Mamluk dynasty. Mamluk dynasty is a Quranic term for slave. Slave dynasty ruled India, Delhi for from AD 1206 to 1290. So in that there are three dynasties. First is Kuttabi dynasty founded by Qutbuddin Aibak. Second is first Ilbari dynasty founded by Iltutmish, and the third is second Ilbari dynasty founded by Balban. So when we look at Qutabi dynasty, its founder is Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay, Qutbuddin Aibak was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. We discussed it in the previous video. So he set up a strong military headquarters in Indraprastha near Delhi. He raised a standing army and established his hold over North India. Okay, Aibak declared his independence. He declared it even when Ghori was alive. Okay, and he assumed title of Sultan and made Lahore his capital. Okay, he can be said as the founder of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, Muslim writers call Aibak Lak Bash or giver of lakhs because he gave liberal donations to them. Aibak patronized the great scholar Hasan Nizami. So this can be asked because which scholar was patronized by Aibak? Hasan Nizami. Okay. Then going down, he also started the construction after the name of Sufi saint Khoja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar, which is Qutb Minar. Okay, and it was completed by Iltutmish. Aibak died suddenly by playing horse polo or chogan. Then going down, he was succeeded by Arambaksh, but he was replaced by Iltutmish after 8 months. So this is Qutb Minar, which Aibak built for the Sufi saint Khwaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar. So Iltutmish, when we look at the life of Iltutmish, Iltutmish belonged to the Ilbari tribe. So he founded the first Ilbari dynasty. So his half brothers sold him as a slave to Aibak. He was also a slave. So uh, Aibak was the slave of Gori and Iltutmish was a slave of Aibak. So Aibak made him the son-in-law, giving him his daughter in marriage to him. Later, Aibak appointed him as Iqtadar. Like in the Delhi Sultanate, we can see the Sultanate was divided into various provinces. Each province was called Iqta. So Iqtadar means he was the provincial head of Gwalior. Iltutmish defeated Arambaksh. Arambaksh was the son of Aibak and became the Sultan. He shifted his capital from Lahore to Delhi. Okay. First, it was the capital was Lahore under Aibak. Then he shifted. Iltutmish shifted the capital from Lahore to Delhi. So again, going down, we will see during the reign of Iltutmish, we can see Chengiz Khan, the leader of the Mongols, started invading Central Asia. He defeated Jalaluddin Mangurbarni, the ruler of Khwarazm. So this can be asked because last time, who was ruling in India at the time, Genghis Khan attacked. So that question was previously asked in the prelims. So it was under Iltutmish. So this time the question can be Genghis Khan defeated whom in India? It can be Jalaluddin Mangulbarni, the ruler of Khwarazm. So going down, he asked actually the Jalaluddin asked refuge for Iltutmish, but Iltutmish refused to give him. And this tactic of Iltutmish helped his empire from the attack of the Mongols. So and Genghis Khan eventually left for Central Asia. He added or annexed the Sindh and Multan into Delhi Sultanate, and he also marched against Bihar and Bengal. He suppressed the Rajput revolts and Ranthambore, Golor, Ajmer, and Gwalior. Okay, he also led expeditions in Paramaras of Malwa. In the previous video, we have seen they are also another Rajputs, but it was not successful. See, when we look at the Delhi Sultanates or the Sultans, Delhi Sultans, they gave greater importance to the Caliph. Okay, in this we can see he received the manor or the letter of recognition from the Caliph. Caliph is a religious leader for Muslims. So later he nominated his daughter Razia. Razia, she was an able leader. But the thing is that although she was an able leader, really good administrator, because she was woman, at that time, she was not recognized. So the society at that time was highly patriarchal. So they failed to recognize the talents of Razia. So going again in detail about Razia, you will see that the hereditary succession to the Delhi Sultanate was initiated by Iltutmish. This can also be a question. Delhi Sultanate hereditary succession was initiated by Iltutmish. He patronized many scholars. One such scholar we need to remember is Minhaj al-Suraj. Okay, he has said about Razia, because he said that Razia, even though she was a good administrator, good ruler, but why did he's asking God, why did you make Razia a woman? It is said in the NCRT. Okay, apart from completing the construction of Qutub Minar in Delhi, the tallest stone tower in India, he built a magnificent mosque in Ajmer. Another thing is that he also introduced the Arabic coinage in India, the silver tanka. Silver tanka. This is also another question. Silver tanka, the Arabic coinage, was introduced by Iltutmish. And silver tanga remained the basis of the modern rupee. Iltutmish had also created a new class of ruling elite. This is very important. Ruling elite of 40. It was called the 40. Okay. And when we are coming for Razia Sultana, or she was very good administrator. Okay, although Iltutmish nominated his daughter Razia as his successor, the Qasi of Delhi, the Wazir put Ruknuddin Firoz on the throne. He was also a son of Iltutmish. Then the governor of Multan revolted. Ruknuddin marched to suppress the revolt. So, using this opportunity, Razia, with the support of Amirs of Delhi, seized the throne of Delhi Sultanate. She appointed Abbasian slave Yaqut. Yaqut is also, he was a trusted person of Razia. He was the master of royal horses. Okay, Razia trusted him, and Razia discarded the woman apparel and held the court with her face unveiled. Okay, and the fall of Razia paved. The thing is that Razia, she was she went on for hunting, and she led an army, and at the same time she went in person to suppress the revolt of Altunia and kill Altunia, her most trusted person Yakut, the master of her horses. He was killed, and Razia was taken as a prisoner. Okay, while at that time Turkish nobles put Bahram, another son of Iltutmish, on the throne. However, Razia won over her captor Altunia, and they both got married. And when they came back to Delhi, she was defeated and killed. Okay, fall of Razia paved way for the ascendancy of the 40. See, the nobles created by Iltutmish, they came into power. For the next 6 years, Bahram and Masood ruled Delhi. Okay, that was a bad time. Then we can see Balban. Balban succeeded in putting Nazaruddin Muhammad, a younger son of Iltutmish, as Sultan. Okay, the era of Balban. Balban was another able leader. Ghiasuddin Balban. He was known as Ulugh Khan, another name of Balban, served as a naib or regent in the Sultan Nazaruddin Muhammad. He also strengthened his position by marrying the daughter of Sultan. Balban was all powerful in the administration. He had to face intrigues he had many rivals in the court. So, in order to overcome all the difficulties in 1266, Nazaruddin Muhammad died without issues, and Balban ascended throne. See, Nazaruddin Muhammad was put on by Balban, and he ascended into throne. Okay, yeah, this Balban understood that the main problem was the nobles. Okay, he knew the real threat to the monarchy was the nobles called the 40. He convinced that only by enhancing the power and authority of the monarchy he could face the problems. So, according to Balban, the Sultan was God's shadow on earth and the recipient of divine grace. Okay, He introduced a rigorous religious discipline, new customs such as prostration and kissing the sultan's feet to prove his superiority over the nobles. He was introduced the Persian festival, Naros, is another important UPSC point of view question. This is Naros. Persian festival Naros was introduced by Balban. He had the support of the Turkish nobles, and Balban was determined to break the power of the 40. Okay, he spared only most obedient nobles, and we can here see many atrocities done by him against the 40s. So it is not that important. When we look at it, he established a separate military department, Divani Aras. Okay, and reorganized the army. See, Balban reorganized the military. It is also another important point. This question has been asked in the previous prelims questions. Okay, Balban took severe action against the Mewattis and prevented such robberies. Robbers were mercilessly pursued and put to death. And when Turkil Khan, the governor of Bengal, revolted, he was suppressed and beheaded. Okay, in the northwest, Mongols reappeared, and Balban sent his son, Prince Muhammad, against him, but the prince was killed. And it was moral blow for the Sultan. Sultan died in 1287. He was undoubtedly one of the main architects of Delhi Sultanates. He enhanced the power of the monarchy. However, he could not fully safeguard India from the Mongol invasions. When Balban died, one of his grandsons, Haibad, was made the Sultan of Delhi. After 4 years in competent rule, Jalauddin Khilji captured the throne of Delhi. Now we see the arrival of the Khilji dynasty. Khilji dynasty founder is Jalauddin Khilji. The advent of Khilji dynasty marked the zenith of Muslim imperialism in India. The founder of the Khilji dynasty was Jalauddin Khilji. It was never Alauddin Khilji. Okay. He was 70 years old when he came into power. He was generous and lenient. Malik Kujju, nephew of Balban, was allowed to remain the governor of Kara. His leniency was misunderstood as his weakness. See, Jalaluddin Khilji was a really good man. That is what it is said. So, and he also allowed the nephew of Balban to remain as the governor of Kara. And when Kachu revolted, he was suppressed, but he was pardoned. When the thugs looted the country, they were allowed to go after a severe warning. So, when Kaju revolted again in the second time, he was replaced by his son-in-law Alauddin Khilji. Here comes the main character, Alauddin Khilji. So, Alauddin Khilji took an expedition to Devagiri and returned to Kara. During the reception there, Alauddin Khilji treacherously murdered his father-in-law Jalaluddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji murdered his father-in-law. See, we can see all these aspects in the movie Rani Padmavat movie. All these aspects are depicted. Okay, and Alauddin Khilji. Now we will see Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji made an enormous gift to the hostile nobles and amirs of Delhi to win them over his side. Those who still opposed him, Ascension, were punished severely. He was actually a strict ruler, or we can say he was very harsh. He was considered the general prosperity of the nobles, intermarriages between noble families, inefficient spice system, drinking liquor were the basic reasons for rebellions. So what he did? He passed four ordinances. Four ordinances were passed by Alauddin Khilji. He confiscated the properties of the nobles. The intelligence system was reorganized, and all the secret activities of the nobles were immediately reported to the Sultan. The public sale of liquor, drugs were totally stopped. Social gatherings and festivals without the permission of Sultan were forbidden. By such harsh measures, his reign was free from rebellions. So this is a map of Empire of Alauddin Khilji. I have a better map. I will show you at the end of the video. So here we can see Multan, we can see Delhi. You can see it was extended till near Peshawar and Kabul. And in the eastern side, Gaur, Bengal was included, Prayag was included, and he had control over even the Rajasthan areas of Rajput areas, Chittor, and we can when we go down we can see the Altabad, Warangal, and in the south he could not control actually the Madurai region, but he reached nearly to it. Okay, that is a great achievement in the side of the Khilji dynasty. And we can see the reforms of Alauddin Khilji. He maintained a permanent standing army. Okay, permanent standing army, and he paid them in cash from the royal treasury. Okay, he recruited around 4,75,000 cavalrymen. He introduced a system of Bagh. See, Balban introduced the military department, Diwan Arizat, and Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, introduced system of dag, okay, branding of horses. This is another important question in the prelims point of view. It was asked. And prepared hulia or descriptive list of soldiers. In order to ensure maximum efficiency, a strict review of army from time to time was carried out. So he introduced paying salaries in cash to the soldiers. Okay, and he also introduced many market reforms. He established four separate markets in Delhi: one for grain, another for cloth, sugar, dry fruits, and butter and oil. The third for horses, slaves, and cattle, and the fourth was for miscellaneous commodities, which not included in the other three markets. Each market was under the control of higher officer called Shana il Mandi. Shana Mandi. So we need to write down these names because this is only the beginning or the list of the departments and the heads in under the Delhi Sultanates. Okay, the supply of grain was ensured by holding stocks. Another important aspect is that he had many storehouses. So regulations were issued to fix the price of all commodities. At times, he would send a street boy to the markets and check whether the prices are intact or the weights are in correct order. So that was another measure introduced by Khilji to test whether the markets, the inflation is happening or not. He maintained a proper check on all those things. Okay, the separate department called Diwani Riyasat was created under the officer called Nayab-e Riyasat. Every merchant was registered under the market department. There was a secret agents called Munians. Okay, just remember the names. Munians. Who sent the reports to the Sultan regarding the functioning of the market. So apart from market reforms, Alauddin Khilji took important steps in the land revenue administration. He was the first Sultan of Delhi who ordered the measurement of land. Why? So in order after the land is measured, proper land revenue was collected in cash, and this system was adopted by Sher Shah and Akbar. Okay. And another aspect is Alauddin Khilji sent his army 6 times against Mongols. He was, see, according to his successors, he was far better general or military tactics. His military tactics were really good against the Mongols. He somewhat prevented the attack of Mongols in the northwestern region. And first two were successful, but the third Mongol invader, Khoja, came up to Delhi, but they were prevented from entering into the capital city. Okay, next three Mongol invasions were dealt with severely. Okay, thousands of Mongols were killed. The northwestern frontier was fortified, and Ghazi Malik was appointed as a warden of marches to protect the frontier. So, the military conquest of Alauddin Khilji included the expedition against Gujarat. These are the expeditions inside India. Okay, he sent Nusrat Khan, Ulugh Khan to capture Gujarat, and the king escaped with his daughter, but the queen was captured. And later he made Malik Naib military commander. Then in 1301, Alauddin marched against the Ratanpur. After 3 months siege, the kingdom fell. The Rajput woman committed Johar, that is self-immolation. We have seen it in the movie Padmavat. Okay, going again over here, Alauddin Khilji again attacked Chittor, another Rajput kingdom. We have seen that in the movie Padmavat, a powerful state of Rajasthan. Okay, after several months of siege, Alauddin Khilji stormed the Chittor fort. Raja Rajan Singh and his soldiers fought violently but submitted. He was killed, and the Rajput woman, including Rani Padmini, performed Johar. Padmini episode is graphically. It is written in Padmavat, written by who? Jayasi. This can be asked because it was in the movie. So there are some chances. So again, Alauddin Khilji's greatest achievement was the conquest of Deccan and the far south. We have seen it in the map. So Deccan and far south, it was captured. This region was ruled by four important dynasties. So he defeated the Yadavas of Devagiri, Kakatiyas of Warangal, Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra, and the Pandyas of Madurai. But he couldn't capture much of the Madurai, but he defeated the Pandyas. And in Alauddin sent Malik Kafur and against the ruler of Devagiri, Ramachandra Deva. He submitted and paid tributes. Malik Kafur was another important personality in the life of Alauddin Khilji. Okay, he was also a slave, and he led a campaign against Warangal. Its ruler Prabhathab Rudra Deva was defeated, and enormous booty was collected from him. Okay, and Malik Kafur's next target was the Hoysala ruler. It explains, this paragraph actually explains is all the how he defeated. It was Malik Kafur actually who led the expeditions. Okay, Khilji died in 1316. Although Sultan was illiterate, he patronized poets like Amir Khusro. Amir Khusro was really important personality in the Delhi Sultanate literature part. So he was called the poet of India and all these things because he is really important. You need to look into him. And Amir Khusro's writings, his literary works, all these things are important. He even called Kashmir, he's a person who termed Kashmir as heaven on earth. Okay, he's also built a famous, and the Sultan Alauddin Khilji built a famous gateway known as Alai Darwaza and constructed new capital in Siri. Mubarak Shah and Khusru Shah was the successors of Alauddin Khilji. Khasi Malik, the governor of Dilaipur, killed the Sultan Khusru Shah and ascended the throne of Delhi under the title of Gyazuddin Tughlaq. He thought, see, Muhammad bin Tughlaq is famous for his experiments actually, and his enterprise experience. He's also a properly learned person. He's a only Delhi Sultan who received comprehensive literary, religious, and philosophical education. But the thing is that he made so many schemes, and most of his schemes didn't work out. That is the main problem. Okay, and one of his main schemes were the transfer of capital, the Devagiri. Is second capital, or we can say Daulatabad, into and he transferred it to the see when we look at the map, uh, we look at the map. See, Devagiri was also called Daulatabad. See, it was over here. Daulatabad is over here and Delhi is over here. And at that time, there were constant attacks from who? The Mongols. So, in order to prevent all these things, the Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought transferring the capital to that region will be much better. So he literally enforced his orders ruthlessly and caused hardship to the population of Delhi. Okay, the distance was about 1,500 kilometers. Many people died during the rigorous journey in the summer. After 2 years, what happened? Sultan abandoned the Daulatabad and asked them to return to Delhi. Another scheme introduced by him is the token currency. Okay, token currency is that it literally means that, see, he printed many. There are other at that time there was a shortage in silver coins. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought that in Kabli Khan in China he issued paper currency and it was quite successful. So Tughlaq issued copper coins as per the value of silver tanka. Okay, what happened? The token currency was issued and the goldsmiths began to forge token coins because this copper was vastly available and the tanka lost its value. Muhammad Tughlaq stopped the circulation of token currency and promised to exchange the new coins, but the treasury became empty. According to Burney, the heap of copper coins remained lying on the roadside of Tughlaqabad. Okay, taxation of Doab. This is also another. Doab is a region between Ganga and Yamuna. Okay, Doab is a region between Ganga and Yamuna. Muhammad Tughlaq increased the land revenue for the farmers in that region. It was an excessive and arbitrary step on the farmers. A severe famine was also ravaging in the region, and it had resulted in a serious peasant revolts. They fled the villages, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq took harsh measures to capture and punish them. Revolts were crushed. It was a negative effect. But he introduced many agricultural reforms. It was quite successful. See, realized that later adequate relief measures and promotion for the agriculture were the real solution to the problem. They need more measures for the promotion of agriculture. So he launched a scheme of Takavi loans. Okay, Takavi loans for cultivation. That in which money was given to the farmers to buy seed and to extend cultivation. A separate department called Diwani e Kohi was established. Okay, model farm under the state was created in an area of 64 square kilometer, which government spent 70 lakh tankas. This experiment was further continued by Firoz Tughlaq. Okay, the later part, Muhammad bin Tughlaq reign witnessed spate rebellions. See, because he made so many improper decisions which led people making him angry. But at that time also, there was another plus point because he was a liberal, kind of liberal sultan, and he didn't actually, in the initial stages, he didn't support the caliph, the supreme leader of Muslims. So at that time, you know what happens? He asked the caliph to recognize him. So when the caliph recognized him, this rebellion slowly ended or it dissipated away. And these issues also resulted in the partition of the countries. Okay, the rebellion of Hasan Shah resulted in the establishment of Madurai Sultanate. The Vijayanagar kingdom was found. In 1347, Bahmani kingdom was established. The governors of Oudh, Multan, Sindh revolted against the authority of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In Gujarat, Taghi rose to the revolt against the Sultan, who spent nearly 3 years in chasing him. Okay, and his health became deteriorated and he died in 1351. Okay, we can see that the emergence of the Delhi Sultan, I mean Deccan Sultanates during this time. Okay, according to Barni, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a mixture of opposites. His reign marked the beginning of the process of its decline. Now we have Firoz Tughlaq. Firoz Tughlaq, after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Tughlaq had the unique distinction to be chosen as a sultan by the nobles. He appointed Khan-e Jahan Makbal, a Telugu Brahmin, convert as wazir or prime minister. The wazir helped the sultan in his administration and maintained the prestige of the sultanate during this period. So, military campaigns. Due to many improper decisions taken by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah faced the problem of preventing the disintegration of Delhi Sultanate. He tried to safeguard his authority over North India instead of asserting his authority over the Deccan and South India. See, I told you, Deccan Sultanates emerged during Muhammad bin Tughlaq's time. Okay, and South India also. Because of that, Firoz Shah mainly focused on the North Indian region. He led two expeditions to Bengal, but they were not successful. Bengal became free from the control of Delhi Sultanate. Firoz led a campaign against Jagnar, North Orissa, and he returned with rich booty acquired from the temples. See, mainly when the sultans invade a particular region, they invade temples because temples will be rich in gold and all. So he marched against Nagarkot and made its ruler pay tributes. He collected, see, Firoz Shah, another important thing. Firoz Shah collected 1300 Sanskrit manuscripts from the Jwalamukhi temple library and got them translated into Persian. Firoz next marched against Tanta in Sindh region and crushed a rebellion there. This part, Jwalamukhi temple and 1300 Sanskrit scripts were translated into Persian. This is also an important aspect in Firoz Shah's life. Okay, Firoz Shah's administrative reforms, reign of Firoz Tughlaq was more notable for his administration. He strictly followed the advice of Almas. Almas or Muslim council, clergy council, we can say. Okay, and he pleased the nobles and asserted hereditary succession to their properties. Thus, Ikta system was not only revived but also it was made hereditary. Okay, Ikta system was made hereditary. And when we go down, we can see as per Islamic law, he levied the taxes. Jizya was strictly imposed on non-Muslims because that time non-Muslims or Hindus were seen as protected people. Protected people. So it was the duty of the Muslims to protect them. So a tax called religious tax called jizya was imposed on them for the expenses. And he was the first sultan to impose irrigation tax. At the same time, he dug irrigation canals and wells. This is also another prelims question because who is the sultan who built extensive canals and wells? He was Firoz Tughlaq. The longest canal was about 200 kilometers from Sutlej to Hansi. Another canal between Yamuna and Hisar were about 1200 fruit gardens in and around Delhi, yielding more revenue. And the special tax on 12 items was abolished by him since they were against Islamic law. He followed a strict code of Islam. Okay, he also developed the royal factories called Kharkhanas, which with thousands of slaves were employed. Okay, and about 300 new towns were built during his reign. The famous among them was Firozabad near Red Fort, Delhi. Now Firoz Shah Kotla. All monuments like Juma Masjid and Qutub Minar were also repaired. So a new department called Diwani Khairat. See, in Delhi Sultanates, there are a lot of departments and their heads. It is better you write it down in a table-wise manner and learn them. So it will be a lot more easier. And it was created to take care of orphans and widows. Free hospitals and marriage bureaus for poor Muslims were also established. Firoz patronized scholars like Barni, Afif. He was guided by Almas. He was intolerant towards Shia Muslims and Sufis. He treated Hindus as second grade citizens and imposed jizya. Okay. In this respect, he was the precursor of Sikandar Lodi and Aurangzeb. Both of them were strict, they followed strict code of Islam. Okay, he also increased the number of slaves by capturing the defeated soldiers and young persons. He died in 1388. The struggle for power between Sultan and nobles started once again. Many provinces like Malwa, Gujarat declared their independence. The invasion of Timur in 1398 had worsened the situation. When Timur entered Delhi, there was no opposition and he sacked Delhi for 3 days, murdering thousands of people and looting enormous wealth. He withdrew from India in 1399. His invasion, in fact, delivered a death blow to the Tughlaq dynasty. So, next we are seeing is the Sayyid dynasty. Okay, Sayyid dynasty before his departure from India, Timur appointed Qazir Khan as the governor of Multan. He captured Delhi and founded the Sayyid dynasty. Okay, he was a slave under who? Timur. He tried to consolidate the Delhi Sultanate but in vain. Okay, he died in 1421 and was succeeded by his son Mubarak Shah. Muhammad Shah, who succeeded him, was always busy against conspirators and gradually lost control over his nobles. Buhul Khan Lodi dominated everything. Muhammad Shah died in 1445 and succeeded by his son Alam Shah, the weakest of the Sayyids. Who was the weakest of the Sayyids? Alam Shah was the weakest of the Sayyids. Okay, he handed over the throne to Buhul Lodi and retired in Badwan. Okay, and now we have the Lodi dynasty. The who succeeded the Sayyids were Afghans. The Sayyids were actually Turks. We can say Turks. Bull Lodi was the first Afghan ruler, while his predecessors were all Turks. He died in 1489 and was succeeded by his son Sikandar Lodi. Sikandar Lodi was a hardcore Muslim. So, as said earlier, Sikandar Lodi was the greatest of the three Lodi sovereigns. He brought the whole Bihar under his control. Many Rajput chiefs were defeated. He attacked Bengal and forced its ruler to conclude a treaty with him and extended his empire from Punjab to Bihar. He was a good administrator, roads were laid, and many irrigational facilities were provided for the benefit of the peasantry. Despite certain laudable qualities, he was a bigot. He destroyed many Hindu temples and imposed many restrictions on the Hindus. Yet he was one of the great Lodi sultans who made Sultanate strong and powerful. Okay, Sikandar Lodi was succeeded by his eldest son Ibrahim Lodi, who was arrogant. He insulted his nobles openly in court and humiliated them. Those nobles who revolted were put to death. His own uncle Alauddin revolted. Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of Punjab, was insulted, and disaffection between the king and the courtier became very common. Greatly displeased by the arrogance of Ibrahim, Daulat Khan Lodi invited Babur. Who invited Babur? Daulat Khan Lodi. This is also another question in prelims. Okay, Daulat Khan invited Babur to invade India. Babur marched against Delhi, defeated and killed Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat. The Afghan kingdom lasted only 75 years. Okay, we can see what we have learned from this political history of Delhi Sultanate, rulers of slave dynasty, Khilji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's achievements and his administrative experiments. In Khilji dynasty, we have seen Alauddin Khilji's military achievements and reforms, Firoz Tughlaq and his administration, Sayyids and Lodis, and the decline of Delhi Sultanates. See, this is the map of Tughlaq dynasty. We can see we have seen the Delhi over here, Ahmedabad, Lahore, and we can see Daulatabad is over here, and it nearly reached South India, but it failed to capture the Chaira kingdoms and some part of Madurai. Okay, that was Tughlaq dynasty, and these are almost all the sultanates of Delhi. This was the Lodi dynasty that we just discussed, and the Mamluk dynasty, the first dynasty. It was in this region. We have the Khilji dynasty, which was mainly based in North India, and the Tughlaq dynasty, which we discussed. So this photo we can say that it is kind of a revision of what we have learned till now. We see the Rajput dynasties Tomaraz, Nagapala, Chauhan, Prithviraj Chauhan. Then we have the early Turkish rulers. First was Qutbuddin Aybak, then Shamsuddin Iltutmish, then Razia after Iltutmish. His daughter Razia came, then Ghiyazuddin Balban. We have Balban. Then it came Khilji dynasty. That was Jalaluddin Khilji, then Alauddin Khilji. Jalaluddin Khilji was the founder of Khilji dynasty. Then we have the Tughlaq dynasty, Over here, the Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq, then Muhammad Tughlaq, then Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Okay, then we have Sayyid. Sayyids are over here Sayyid Khazir Khan, then Lodi. Lodi's Bull Lodi. Then Ibrahim Lodi came. Ibrahim Lodi was defeated by Babur. Now we can look at some prelims question. It was asked in 1999. After consolidating his power, Balban assumed the grand title of what? Tute Hind, Kaisar-e-Hind, Zil al-Ilahi, Din al-Ilahi. The answer is Zil al-Ilahi. The next question is, then Sultan of Delhi, who is reputed to have built the biggest network of canals in India? Iltutmish, Ghiyazuddin, Firoz Shah, Sikandar Lodi. The answer is Firoz Shah. It was a 1998 question. So, next question is, Mughals under Genghis Khan invaded India during the reign of whom? Balwan, Firoz Tughlaq, Iltutmish, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The answer is Iltutmish. Answer is Iltutmish. So guys, that is the end of this video about Delhi Sultanates. So I hope you people understood our classes. It is actually my revision lectures that I am conveying it to you. I hope you people can understand it. Do respond to me in the comment section. If I miss out something, do let me know in the comment section, and do let me know if I need to include some topics or I need to improve my videos. Do let me know in your comments. Thank you.